Welcome back to the Packer Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Corrigan, and regardless of how you found me, thank you so much for being here. Packers fell short against the Patriots on Saturday night, 21-17, but it's the preseason, so let's not dwell on the score. Doesn't matter. Instead, let's focus on the performance by some of our young players and why the future looks pretty good for Green Bay. Before we get into the game, by now, you know that the game was stopped in the fourth quarter. Isaiah Bolden suffered a scary head injury and was down on the field for several minutes before they got him on a board, strapped him in, and took him via ambulance to the hospital. The coaches, teams, and the NFL decided to just end the game at that point. It's the right call. It's a preseason game, and it's an awful situation to try and get a lot of young players in their mostly in their first game action, get them ready to play again. But of course, there were a few people who, for mainly selfish reasons, I'm sure, were publicly unhappy and complaining that the game was stopped. If you are one of those people, the problem isn't the players or the teams or the NFL. You're the problem. Take a good look in the mirror. The person you see looking back at you is a jackass. Be better. The good news is that Bolden was medically cleared and released from the hospital Sunday morning. So, great news. Very happy to hear about that. Packers had a few guys that didn't play on Saturday night with injuries or just as a precaution against injury. Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, Luke Tenuta, Tyler Davis, Corey Ballantyne, Lou Nichols, Tyler Goodson, Innis Gaines, Devondre Campbell, Mo Melton, and Caleb Jones all did not play. This means other players got more playing time, and quite a few of them made the most of that opportunity. We're going to talk about a few of those guys. I'm not going to talk about everyone who had a good game, just a few that caught my eye and that are important to the Packers' future. First and most importantly, another good performance by Jordan Love. Continues to make good decisions, good reads, and he's not throwing interceptions in game situations. He was 5 of 8 for 84 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 137.5 passer rating. That is really good. He showed resiliency tonight. Packers offense had a rough start. First drive had a bad snap, led to a turnover and a New England touchdown. Their second drive did move the ball a little bit, but that also stalled. So now they're in their third drive late in the first quarter and starting back to way up after a penalty on the punt return. And on the first play, have a false start. So now the ball is on your own 4-yard line. And Jordan Love took them all the way down the field in 5 plays. 3 of those plays were big plays, showcasing different skills that you want to see. Big time throws, plays within the system, and plays when things break down. He had early in the drive, a 42-yard pass to Romeo Doubs. It was a good throw, but it was a great job by Romeo to get his feet down inbounds. And they actually had to go to the replay to see this. Romeo Doubs continues to impress all preseason training camp with his route running, with his ability, with his footwork, everything. He's been great so far. Next play actually was things broke down on Jordan Love. He ended up scrambling, picked up 11 yards, a first down. At the end of the play, he slid to the ground and a Patriot player basically jumped on him. 15-yard penalty. It was great to see that the Packers offensive line and others were quick to have his back in confronting the Patriots player or players. We're going to talk a little bit on how important this is later this week and how this team feels different than last year's team. The drive was capped off by a 19-yard touchdown to Jaden Reed. It was a bullet throw, just a frozen rope to Reed, who caught it in stride, reached out, made a really nice catch, and then fought his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Very impressive drive, a lot of great plays there, and the drive kind of changed the game for a big portion of the rest of the night. Also on the offensive side of the ball, in the offensive line, starting tonight, Rasheed Walker started at left tackle. He was coming off a good game against Cincinnati, had a good week of practice, spent a lot of time practicing with the first team, and with David Bakhtiari out, he started the game at left tackle. And he, along with the rest of the offensive line, and that includes Jenkins, Myers, Runyon, and Tom, they kept Jordan Love clean, no sacks. After Love left the game, after that touchdown drive, Sean Clifford came in, and he has cemented his place as quarterback two. Another really good performance by Sean. It does generate a few heart palpitations because he does throw the ball into tight spaces. He is not afraid, and occasionally puts his receivers in a little bit of danger where they might take a hit. But he is absolutely fearless, which is what you want. Does not show any signs of being nervous, not afraid to throw the ball. Reminds me a little bit, just a very little bit, in how fearless he is in throwing the ball into tight places of Brett Favre. Continuing on the offensive side of the ball, a guy that I'm cheering for to make this team because of how he's performed so far in the offseason, in the preseason, and in these first two games, and that is wide receiver Malik Heath, who is a rookie, undrafted free agent. He's performing in practice. Last week, caught 3 passes for 36 yards, including a couple of great blocks. Tonight, 5 targets, 5 catches, 75 yards, led the Packers in catches and yards. Had a huge 25-yard catch deep over the middle from Clifford, surrounded by Patriots. He jumps up, gets hit by 2 defenders, gets his helmet knocked off, but he hung on to the ball. He is getting open, including getting open against a first-round pick, Christian Gonzalez, who, by all accounts, has been really good. He's got good hands. I think he's only had, in the games, he's been targeted, I think, 8 or 9 times, and he's got 8 receptions in those 9 targets. He blocks, not afraid to block, and has done a really nice job. How is this guy an undrafted free agent? He was actually the leading receiver at Ole Miss, and the guy second in receptions was drafted. I just don't see how they can keep him off the roster, despite, I know he's an undrafted free agent, and you have draft picks, but they have to just keep 6 wide receivers, because I don't see, with this performance and how he's doing everything possible to make this team, I don't see how you can keep him off the roster. So he's my guy. I want to see him make the team. Also on the offensive side of the ball, another undrafted free agent, Emmanuel Wilson, after his big week last night, over 100 yards last week. Saturday night, 15 carries, 63 yards, over 4 yards per carry. He showed burst, he showed quickness, he has good vision, he's breaking tackles. He is going to make the decision for running back 3 pretty tough for this Packers coaching staff. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. Two guys that have done a really good job in camp and through the first two games showed up big again on Saturday night against the Patriots. Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, rookies, getting a lot of time on the field, and these guys are causing havoc. They are penetrating, they're getting into the backfield, they're putting pressure on the quarterback. Really like what I see from these two, and it does bode well for this defensive line. On the edge, Kingsley Enikbare had a big night early against the starters. Was the starting edge rusher opposite Preston Smith. He had 2 sacks, including a forced fumble, and had the awareness to not only force the fumble, but to jump on the ball and recover it. Big night by Kingsley. Very happy for him. Also on the edge, undrafted rookie free agent, Brenton Cox. Another good night pressuring the quarterback. Again, it's a couple weeks in a row. He's doing it in practice as well. He's done a really nice job. Is in pretty good shape to make this active roster. We'll see. Another rookie, and this guy has taken some grief over the last couple of weeks because he's been a bit inconsistent, but he had a good night on Saturday night. Kicker Anders Carlson, perfect on the night, 2 extra points, and a long 52-yard field goal. That's all you can ask for. Just make the kicks you're asked to make. On the negative side, obviously the bad snap early in the first quarter. There were way too many penalties. It is preseason. You do have a lot of young guys out there, but penalties, those are going to kill you every time. And defensive side of the ball, did give up a long touchdown reception. There were a couple of rookies involved in that. But all of these issues, they're all coachable, learning opportunities that I'm sure this Packers coaching staff will address this week and basically every week when things like this come up. So, not worried about any of those issues. Later this week, we're going to talk about how this team feels different than last year's team. And I'm not just talking about all the rookies and all the young guys, just an overall feel in the locker room that I basically see everywhere. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Be safe and go Pack Go.